parents understand the difference. Bullying, they're both again offenses and are not allowed in our schools, and we have no place for that in our schools because both can do harm. Bullying is a much more serious offense, and when a student has exhibited what meets the definition of bullying, they're going to receive some pretty serious out-of-school suspension. And in fact, the state went one step further, that in the state of Georgia, once a student in the same school year commits bullying 3 times, they have to be moved to an alternative school. So bullying is being treated very, very seriously because it is now defined as a very, very serious behavioral offense. It is a threatening to do harm, intimidation, making another person or a kid fear for their safety while in a school environment. Whereas harassment, again, not trying to minimize, harassment can be very damaging to kids, right? As they're picked on or made to feel different. So both of those are disciplined in our school system. The first step for reporting that is hopefully your child will go tell a trusted adult that they should have identified in the school building. If they do not feel comfortable doing that and they bring home reports of bullying or harassment, we really encourage you to contact the school leadership. That would be the first step. And then they will conduct an investigation and find out if there's been an offense or rule violation in our code of conduct, and then we'll take the necessary action. Both offenses, bullying and harassment, can lead to suspension, right? Or even serious if it continues. So we very much as a school system want to stop both of those behaviors because of the damaging effect of those. And so I wanted to be sure that we held up those definitions. They're on that handout. They're online in our code of conduct, and you should have received a link to our code of conduct at the beginning of the year. And if you don't have that, it's on our public facing website. Go up to the top where it says students, say students and families or students and parents, I'm not sure. But go up to the top where it says students and families and parents. Pull that down and you'll see our current code of conduct. It has all of our rule violations, and it has the discipline ranges that our administrators use in holding students accountable for those behaviors. Anybody else want to talk about bullying in the school environment? I have Chelsea Montgomery here. One of the things she's our expert in our school system, and she's brought Nicole Webb with her, who's our director of student support. And they provide leadership to our school psychologists, our counselors, our social workers. And so sometimes when students, well, oftentimes when students are experiencing bullying and or harassment, not only do we want to hold the student accountable for who's doing those behaviors, we want to support the victim of harassment and bullying. And often her folks are our first line support system for those students. And so I'd like for her to just share briefly some of our approaches in doing that.
Thank you. So a couple different things. First of all, if you are concerned about what's going on with your child, make sure you tell the school, whether it is through our tip line anonymously. We follow up on those. We do get several tips related to this topic at all points of the nights, weekends, and days. And please know that we do always follow up, not only at the school level, but also my team reaches out to either the counselors, social workers, or psychologists at the school and make sure that it's followed up on. So there is a double layer of follow-up that happens on all of those tips. So if you are concerned, that is the best way to get that double layer, or just report it to your school or speak with a school counselor or psychologist or social worker. But as far as what we do to prevent these instances and then also intervene when they happen or we see a trend. So for prevention, I'm going to hold up our student success skills work. There's several, especially areas this year that we just see as struggles. A sense of belonging. Our kids have been out of school. They may not know all of their peers like they used to. So we explicitly teach skills K through 12 in the areas of sense of belonging, in the areas of self-management, self-awareness. Those are probably the biggest ones: collaborative problem solving, relationship building, all of those types of skills we are teaching. We are teaching daily in our schools K through 12. If you have any questions about student success skills, you can check out our website at the Office of Student Supports, or you can talk with your school leadership or even your teachers. Everyone's been deeply entrenched in this for almost 2 years now, so they should be familiar with all of that. So that's a huge step for prevention that we have for this type of behavior. We also do PBIS in Fulton. Maribel Bell is our expert, and she is here as well. And that really is teaching the behaviors and the expectations of our schools and what it's like to be in school. That cannot be understated in times like these when we are trying to return to whatever this is. But at the same point, our prevention doesn't always work, and we know that. So several schools have a program called Be the Voice. That is a kind of school-wide campaign strategy to really lean in to the topic of bullying. Every school does not do it. We do not require it, but several schools do. And if we see schools that this is coming up a lot, that is a recommendation that we make. In addition, all schools engage in digital citizenship behavior. Social media is a rough place. Cyberbullying has changed the bullying game, certainly since I was in school. And that topic, so we teach that with our social media work and our digital citizenship work. That is part of a device agreement and everything that happens in that space in Fulton. And we also, if a school reaches out for support, we have additional programs that we can roll out to them. Things like Bully Busters and things like that. So it's kind of we watch the data, we watch the schools, they reach out if they need support. But the best thing you can do is just keep us informed, keep your school level leaders informed, keep your school counselors informed, and know that we are doing prevention efforts. But if there needs to be another layer, we are always available to support.
Just want to make one more clarification too, and I'm glad Chelsea brought up the cyberbullying piece, right? Unlike some of our other student offenses, now it still has to meet that definition of bullying that I read at the top, right? So it has to be this threat to inflict bodily harm, intimidation, etc. But cyberbullying is one of the things that it doesn't matter if it happens on campus or off campus. If a student engages in true cyberbullying, meeting that definition, and they make threats to harm other students off campus, there are things that the school system can do and act on. So those are things that we want to know about. We do not want our students to be fearful of coming to school. Schools should be safe places, safe havens for our kids to go and actively engage in the learning process. And so, again, unlike some of the other offenses, we don't have any ability to act on those if they happen in the community or off school campus. But cyberbullying is an exception. If that occurs and it does meet the definition, again, bullying has a very specific definition now that has to be met, and multiple components that have to be met before it actually rises to that level. But if it does, there are things that the school system can act on behalf of those victims. So I'm going to turn it over to some of our other leaders on our panel to share their insights.
So again, I'm Octavius Harris, principal in Langston, and I have the unfortunate job of identifying whether this qualifies as harassment or bullying, right? And I think one of the things that everyone talked about in the beginning is making sure that you're keeping us informed. The more that we're proactive and able to get in front of it, then we get an idea of what's happening and what we can do. What's typically the problem is we want to make sure, because under the definition of harassment, it says unwelcome and uninvited. So we want to make sure that you're not engaging your child, ensure that your child is not engaging in the conversation, engaging in the fight, or going back and forth, because at that point it wouldn't be considered bullying, right? Because we welcome those advances. And so the best thing that we can do as parents is educate our children on how to interact, what to and what to not say, and then how to inform everybody by using those tip lines and reaching out to an administrator within the school. That's really, really important.
Good evening, everyone. I didn't introduce myself earlier. I'm Jarvis Adams, the proud principal of Westlake High School. Excuse my tardiness, I'm still on parent duty in between. So this cyberbullying harassment, one of the things that we really have to pay attention to with cyberbullying is the lingering impact of cyberbullying and how it kind of spirals out of control. I mean, a lot of us adults, when we were growing up, if somebody was a bully, it may have lasted until you got to an older brother or older cousin or someone that can protect you. But with cyberbullying, it goes into the student's bedroom. It stays with them all night. It's reposted, it's liked, it's commented upon, and it really feels like the whole world is laughing at you, or the whole world is against you. So from the school standpoint, outside of what Mr. Harris mentioned, we can take care of the disciplinary side, but we still have to help make that child whole again. And that's a time and process. It's time for them to get over it. And it's a process to help talk them through it and make sure they have counseling support and teacher support, let the teachers know they may not be in the best headspace today because they had a rough night on Instagram. And it sounds minor to us, but for that child, it's their whole world crashing in at one time. And as adults, we just have to be mindful that the cyberbullying can beat a child down, and we have to build that. We have to be a community to build it up. And if your child is a victim, know that the school can support you. But you know, a lot of the Instagram things are beyond our sphere of influence. We can do the digital citizenship, we can talk about it, we can create a platform, but kids can be cruel, and people can really be cruel on social media. So if your child does become a victim, please engage us in restoring and rebuilding your child back up. That's what we're here for.
Once again, my name is Ron Maxwell. I'm the Zone 3 Superintendent for the Westlake Cluster and the Langston Cluster and Global Impact Academy. So the reality of how I end up getting involved is parents skip the school and come to me. But the reality, I'm going to say, parents, you need to start with the school first, because the next thing I'm going to do is call the principal or assistant principal about what's going on in the school. But I think the other reality we have to start talking about is that there's some responsibility for you as a parent of how you engage with your children, because you have to start spending time with kids. The reality, we're letting social media raise our children, and then they behave a particular way and they think that's funny or cute. So at some point when we come to the school, remember, the school is here to support you. We're not against you, but at the end of the day, there's multiple sides to this story, and we have to investigate. So it may be that you go to Mr. Harris and you come to Langston and he tells you, I'm investigating. It may not happen by the close of business that day, but he'll tell you by this time, Mom or Dad, I'll give you a call back. And if you could just work with us and let you and believe that we're going to do what's right for your children, it will go a long way. Because what happens is you come with an energy against us, and we're only here to help because many times we don't know. Remember, we didn't get into this business for bullying. We got into the business for teaching and learning. So at the end of the day, this comes with a part of what we do, but we're here to support. And I just want to put that out there because I'm looking out here and I see all these leaders, and I know we spend a lot of time on emails going back and forth with parents because it wasn't done fast enough. The next thing, you can email the superintendent, but once again, the process is going to come back. It's going to come back to the zone superintendent. From the zone superintendent, it's going to come back to the principal. So if we can start with the school first and then give them due diligence to do what they need to do, and if it does not happen, then let's move forward and have that conversation.
Okay, so from a student perspective, bullying doesn't just hurt us, well, it doesn't just hurt others' morals and I guess self-confidence, but it can be very alienating. When a student doesn't feel comfortable being able to go to the lunchroom or hang out in social gatherings at school or after school, it kind of, it really hurts their ability to connect with others and feel a place of belonging. So it really starts with the students because, you know, you have resources, of course, with the school providing counselors and support, but if other students are making it a difficult place, making school a difficult place to be, it's, at the end of the day, it's something that we have to do as a student body of helping our, and voicing our opinions and, well, just standing up for what's right and not allowing other students to have to go through that every day.
Just to agree with, piggyback off something that you said, it does start with the students. And we often live in a times where if it didn't happen on social media, it didn't happen. So if it's not being posted, if people aren't commenting and liking, it didn't happen. But it does start with us students and being in these programs and these positions to help others out.
One thing I would like to say about bullying is, well, cyberbullying. I think it kind of starts off with the parents, like telling us and educating us about the difference between a joke and bullying. They try to camouflage it as it's just a joke, but it's not just a joke. It's hurting you. And socially, I think that students need reassurance sometimes because on social media, we see a lot of young, successful people and we often feel like maybe we're not doing enough, but sometimes we really are doing enough, and social media is just social media. Everyone puts out what they want you to see. So I think reassurance would be helpful.
Another point I'd like to add is how social media is so easily spread. Like from one post, it can get spread amongst 1,000 pages within the school, and now you have to deal with this within the whole school. So it's kind of hard, and it's like you can't really escape from it because you still have to go to these same classes, you still have to go to the same lunch. It's like you still have to handle your responsibilities as a student. You can't really hide from the problems that you are having. So I definitely think it should definitely be managed better.
Ms. Warren, do you have anything you'd like to say?
I did want to share that social media, thank you students for holding up the challenges. Folks my age, which we won't discuss, we didn't have to face social media. We didn't have to live our lives in such a public and critical way. And so one of the things that we're thinking about as a district is how to better educate our students and our parents about social media and being a good digital citizen while online. So we are planning some parent universities to roll out to do that education piece. Common Sense Media was held up. That is our digital citizenship curriculum. Every one of our schools in the Fulton County school system is certified as a Common Sense Media school. And so there are efforts to teach kids. It is an uphill battle. Social media is a very, very powerful force in our youth's lives. In fact, many of us might get up, the first thing we do is check Facebook or Insta or TikTok or whatever it is. I mean, it's just become this real driving force in a lot of our lives. And so, but it's just very important that we understand that the negative impact it can have when it's used irresponsibly, and that you work with your students and we work with your students, our students, to help educate them that there are other ways to hold yourself up, and there's other ways to show your inner strength and the great things that are going on in your life rather than living it so publicly on social media. I don't think we'll ever be able to dial it all back. I think social media is out there and it's here to stay, and it will ebb and flow in different forms and different platforms and different apps that'll hit our phones. But being good stewards of children and good parents and guardians of our students, it's our jobs to teach them the harms, that what they say online matters and it affects people in very powerful ways. So I want to say thank you not only to our school leaders, but to our students who just really articulated that in a real powerful and incredible way. There's nothing more powerful than hearing directly from the people it most impacts, and that's our students. And so please help us, and please look out for those educational opportunities if you want to know more about Common Sense Media. If you go to Common Sense Media, I think it's .org, I'm not sure, but if you Google it, there are actually parent lessons, parent script, parent resources on there if you don't know how to start that conversation with your particular student. And so feel free to go there. There's a lot of great stuff. Common Sense Media does ratings on films and books and all things media, but they really do talk a lot about online digital citizenship. And I think that we all need to work together as a school community, as a parent community, to really build up education and knowledge about the powerful impacts of that medium. So, all right.
So we have a couple questions from online. So the first question, what should you do if your child is bullied?
I'm just used to standing, I'm sorry. Feel awkward sitting down. So first, report it to a trusted adult, whether it's a teacher, bus drivers have great relationships with students. Sometimes they're the first person they see, and they come in and they report to us. Custodian, any trusted adult in the building, in every school knows exactly what to do. And once we get it, once the administration gets it, they're going to engage the counseling department. The council would then go into action, the administration would go into action, trying to unpack the bullying situation and draw a resolution. And again, if it is deemed bullying versus harassment, right, that is a stiff process that that bully has to go through.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Another question we have from online is, what are we seeing around bullying and what are some examples?
Again, that goes back to kind of what I stated earlier. A lot of the times that we're dealing with these type of situations, it's usually a back and forth mutual thing as opposed to flat out bullying, right? And so we want to make sure that we investigate fully before we enact any type of discipline, because most of the time it's two children who have conflict and are not able to resolve that conflict. But in other cases where there is bullying, it usually starts online, posting something that was inappropriate that somebody wasn't okay with, and then the comments, and it keeps going that way. That's usually how it starts, and then it escalates and comes into the school building. Most of the time, it's not bullying in the traditional sense that we watched all those TV shows, Wonder Years and whatever. I'm dating myself now. It's changed, right? Bullying has changed to cyberbullying and things that we haven't 100% got in front of yet because it's still fairly new, right? Instagram, social media is still fairly new, but with the parents' help of monitoring your kids' social media, there's an age limit on those things for a reason, because right now we're not able to manage those things consistently. So we ask that parents monitor those things, make sure that if you do allow your child to have it before the age limit is reached, then it should be you guys' social media. You should have it as well. You should have access and be able to look at it and monitor those things as well.
So when it comes to bullying on social media, something that we see a lot is that it can either be centralized or kind of like decentralized. So you have pages that where it's more centralized, where people will try to it's where a person will run a page and then they'll ask somebody to send pictures in and stuff like that. People wearing fits that or outfits and things like that, where their hair is messed up. And so what they pretty much try to do is take these anonymous uploads and then post on Instagram, and then everyone has a laugh at that and things like that. And so that's where it's kind of that's kind of how bullying happens on social media. But it can also be where people, someone just has an outfit or something's going on, and someone wants to post it online to embarrass somebody, pretty much, and that can then spread to a whole bunch of different accounts instead of just one singular account. And so that's what you really see with bullying nowadays. And they try to guise it under being anonymous, so you don't know who runs the page and who's uploading these pictures of people and getting these different pictures. But it can really be harmful when you don't, you have no clue who's trying to, and when you have so many different followers on these pages, so everyone's seeing it at your school. So that's what you really see.
Just to piggyback off Mr. Adams and the things to do about bullying, how he talked about like talking to a trusted adult, that plays a big part in building relationships with students and not just taking them for a child that's sitting in my class, actually, nurturing that student and getting to know that student.
I agree. I think bullying has a lot to do with internal issues. Everyone wants to be who they want to be. But when there's something wrong with yourself, or if you feel like you're not 100% confident in yourself, you start to pick on other people. Some people start to pick on other people, and it's not okay. So you have to be comfortable with yourself, and you have to spread love to get love.
I hear you. I hear you.
I definitely agree with that statement. Good job. But I think it's very important just to have, to kind of pick up what you said, just having somebody in the building that you have that connection with, because they can really help you get through it. They can contact other people. It can be a lot done behind the scenes. And I think it's just really important that you just have somebody that you're able to express your feelings with and make a personal relationship with.
So before I pass the mic, I do want to say, some of these, you mentioned earlier about these centralized pages, it may say, bald heads at Westlake, and they take a picture of my head and it hurts my feelings. and we have these happen, where people are getting pictures taken of them in a situation they don't want advertised. If that happens to your child, you can either email the school administration or IT security. That's what, when I receive an email, hey, my child has been embarrassed on this page, anonymous, a so-called anonymous page, I will send it out to IT security. IT security then will work with Instagram or whatever social media outlet there is, and then they'll take that page down. And it's a fairly quick process. It usually happens within an hour, 2 hours max. So as soon as we can get that information and get that over to IT security, the quicker we can get it down before it spreads. And whatever website it spreads to, we can just send it to IT security, they can support.
And then our last question that we have from social media is, what programs are in place?
So we have several things in place and several things that we have to offer schools if they need additional support. Student success skills is our primary prevention for things like this and things in this space. We also have PBIS as a universal prevention tool for all things in this space as well. So student success skills and PBIS are the foundational supports to really build skills, both to prevent these things from happening, resolve those conflicts, build those relationships, and have the right culture and climate that hopefully these things don't come up as much. So those are our true prevention programs. And then in addition, we also have all of our digital common sense media work that is also a foundation in all things digital media to prevent these things from happening. And then Be the Voice. Some schools have that as well. If your school does not have that, that is something that they can explore and see if it fits into their programming. That's really bringing attention to that bystander and what the roles of the different people in those friendship groups. That's what Be the Voice does, and it's really a student-led campaign. And then if the school needs additional support, that's when we push in additional programs, or even we have rolled out specific curriculum around small group skill building that our school counselors, psychologists, and social workers are doing to not only keep these things from happening, but also to, especially to our students' points, to rebuild, and to Mr. Adams, to rebuild students that have experienced these things and put them back together and help them to push on and push forward. I do want to add something that we see that always really breaks my heart, and that is private conversations and private events that kids assume stay private. They don't stay private. And then they get spread around and other kids see them, see the text messages, see the videos, see the pictures, and it is crushing to see what some of our students experience after that has gone viral in their school and in their friend groups. So we really need to emphasize with our kids that there is no such thing as private on your phone. If you had that conversation, if you shared that picture, if you shared that video, someone else can share it too. So we've seen some things around that is so preventable, but they trust the people that they shared it with. So those are the ones that really, really hurt my soul when I see them. So we really need to emphasize private doesn't mean private. Don't make mistakes you can't erase, is what I like to tell kids. If you want to be the president someday, you don't want that text message to come back to you. So just live every day like you want to be the president.
Well, I just want to say thank you to everyone that was on our panel, and we really appreciate you guys, students especially. Thank you, and all of the staff from Fulton County Schools.
I wanted to thank everybody for that conversation, because that's hard, right? And bullying is something that we see so much of. One of the things that I continually get and hear a lot of around the bullying is around social media. And people who have been in my meetings have heard me say this. I am just strongly against kids in K-8 having phones or having access to social media. So I just implore parents, you have people come up here and talk about the programming and the things that we have in place. So as we get ready for our next two agenda items, we have two municipality elected officials. We have Mr. J.C. Sebastian and Mrs. Luana Owens Twaits, I'm so sorry, from Union City. They're going to come up for 5 minutes and just kind of share what's happening in the municipalities to give us a break. And then we're going to go into our two agenda items, and then we will be finished hopefully by 7 o'clock.
Good evening, everyone. I bring you greetings from Union City. I just wanted to give a brief update on all of the exciting things that are happening in Union City. As many of you know, we announced our City Youth Leadership Council that represents every high school in Union City. We have students from 10th, 11th, and 12th grade who are part of that leadership council, who are helping to lead the work and bring their wonderful ideas to Union City. We also have a newly christened community space called the Kenneth L. Johnson Depot. It's a newly constructed structure that serves as a multi-purpose served space for residents, businesses, and organizations, and it is available to the residents in Union City. We also are working on our city corridors and Shannon Place area. Those of you who are familiar with that area, you will see amazing enhancements. The gateway to Union City is that Shannon Parkway area, and we are making amazing enhancements there. In addition, we are welcoming our new community garden, nutrition for the mind, body, and soul. It's 16 acres of space where we have our residents that are actively involved with the community garden. And a wonderful addition, we just did the ribbon cutting on our new Union City skateboard park. And every single day, it is packed. And it is so exciting to see the children out there enjoying that skateboard park. And it's really neat to see folks from other communities that are also coming out to enjoy that skateboard park. In addition to that, there is a huge chessboard out there as well. And so I'm happy to say that I'll be teaching chess this summer to our local kids in the area, just getting that critical thinking going. And we are also working on resurfacing many of our community roads, especially around the Baker Street, Alexander Street area. And so we have a lot of exciting things happening in Union City. There are several things that are in the pipeline that I can't talk about yet, but I really believe they will enhance all of our area. City of South Fulton, Fairburn, Union City, we're a collective community. So I'm really excited about all that's happening.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
This has been my first month in office. So I wanted to just thank Ms. Warren for inviting me here just to share this short update with you, the community. With regards to things happening in the city of South Fulton, we're going through a couple of things that would directly impact the young people in our city and also the surrounding cities, as well as I just wanted to mention a few things that are happening in terms of our updated, we're going to a master lighting plan that we're going to be rolling out sometime later this year, because as you guys know, City of South Fulton is barely 5 years old, and we have a lot of dark areas, including around some of these schools. So we're going through a master lighting plan that we're going to be rolling out. Also, we're actually going through a master development program for our parks, right? District 4, which this school sits in, we have only a couple of parks, and one of which is way at the other end of the district, down near Palmetto, Wilkerson Mill Park. And I bet a lot of people don't know that Wilkerson Mill Park is indeed in the city of South Fulton and District 4, right? But City Grove Park, for example, we're looking at doing some major upgrades there. So in the next couple of years, it's going to look very different than what is existing. Another topic that I know it's fairly popular because I see all the comments on social media is what is happening with South Fulton Parkway and what is happening with some of the other streets that lead to some of these schools in terms of our school bus and our children getting here safely. We are indeed working with GDOT to do some upgrades to South Fulton Parkway. Some of those plans are going to be rolling out shortly. We're going to be getting with GDOT and a couple of the other local elected officials to do some community meeting to let you guys know exactly what is it we're doing with South Fulton Parkway and some of the other major roads around here, including 138, to make the traffic safer. There's some major things coming, such as roundabouts and some other intersection improvements, so that our kids can have easy access to and from school, and of course, you as parents as well. Again, my office is just now getting started, and I have Ms. Jessica Davis right here. She's going to be the lead point, I'd say, in the office. Jessica, stand for a minute, please. So if you call District 4 office, you're going to probably get her from next week. So again, my office is always open to you as parents. I look forward to working with Ms. Warren, because I believe as the cities and the school system work together, we're serving the same population. So we just need to figure out how we work together to make sure we're serving you, the parents, and our kids in the best possible way. Some of the questions I've asked pretty often is, have you consulted the school board, for example, when we're proposing new development? Because what's going to happen? We are having a massive expansion of the City of South Fulton, subdivisions are being built, new developments are coming. And so as those things come online, what is going to happen? We're going to have to figure out the impact on the schools so that we don't end up having schools that are overcrowded. We know that we've had situations where schools have had trailers, for example, and so we need to work with the school board to figure out what our communities are going to be looking like in the short term, in the medium term, and the long term, so that we can plan for the adequate spacing for our kids. I remember when I moved here 16 years ago, my son had to start school in College Park, and I live off of Cedar Road. He had to start school in College Park before we found him a spot at East West, right? So we need to make sure when people move here, there's a spot for their child or their children in school. All right, so again, I have some of my cards here. You can see me at the back. I'll share some of my cards. And as I said, I'm a person that will govern with an open office. I carry 2 cell phones for a reason. I don't keep my cell phone numbers from folks. Even while I was campaigning, my cell phone numbers are on all of my material. So again, I'm here. I'm not telling you I'm going to solve all your problems overnight, but I'm going to give it the best shot. Okay? All right, and I'll be here for questions also at the end of the back. Thank you.
I'm going to share with you some information from the board work session as it relates to the accountability update. So as you know, for the last 2 years here in the state of Georgia, we have not had a school grade with our schools. So the state came up with this on the 27th. It came out for the accountability plan. So basically, if you think about what's getting ready to happen is this year, when students are assessed on the milestones, you will only be given credit for content mastery and participation. So let's talk about content mastery. So if we go back to the scoring, that means this kid's gonna need to be in that in the level 2, at that high level 2, and then in that 3 range. That has a lot of implications to the work that we're doing in schools, and it has a lot of implications of the support we need from parents. Why am I saying that? Parents, when we ask, or you get information about extended day or the tutorial services that we're providing for your students, you need to participate and have your students participate. It's going to be imperative. The schools will start doing what we need to do in the schools to teach the children at that level to get content mastery. But remember, we've had kids out of school of what they've known for over 18 months. So that will be a challenge. Participation. The goal, you have to be at 95% of the kids must test. So what you see in some of our tested grades, we're having unit assessments. Schools are pushing that out. It's imperative that kids come to school for 2 reasons. If they don't come to school, they're not getting the instruction. And then second, it does impact us on this assessment. So no school will get a grade, but you will get by school content mastery in particular content areas that are tested. Another big change will be that in the past, you have what you call closing the gaps. and you had progress points. So this year, we'll create the baseline for that. So then whatever those kids, where that area that they score in, the following year, it'll show if they're gonna grow or not. Now, that says a lot about some of the work that we've done in South Fulton over the years. If you go back, we went from 16 failing schools in South Fulton, and we ended with 2 before we stopped testing. There's a way that we do this work, and we know how to do the work. So don't get nervous if that content masters where we're not used to it and B, but work with us, because we can do this work. Because ultimately, I can only speak for zone. I can speak for zone 3 and 2, because my peers in the back, Dr. Candace. Our goal is that we have no school less than a B in our cluster, right? But that is going to require a real lift, and we're committed to that. And so we just want everyone to be on the same page with that. So testing dates, let's kind of talk about that. Mark your calendars. Elementary milestones will be given from May 4th through May 12th. I'm sorry, one more thing I didn't say. There will be no makeups, meaning that once the kid takes the test for the first time, that's it. So remember, in the past, if they didn't get a particular, they scored low, then we could retest them. That's not going to be the case. Now, that may change next year, but that is where we are this year. Middle school is April 25th through May 6th. High school will begin on April 25th through April 29th. And then we'll have rolling makeups they will go through May 20th. So as a reminder to the public, tests are given in all 3 levels: end of grade tests in elementary and middle, and end of grade course tests for grades bearing high school courses, and which will count for 20%. ELA math, EOG in grades 3 through 8, science EOG in grades 5 and 8, social studies EOG in grade 8. And then in high school, the tested courses are American Lit, which normally are 11th graders, Algebra 1, which are typically our 8th and 9th grade class, and Biology, which is normally 9th grade class, and US History, 11th grade class. Let's go back and talk about something. It is disturbing to me. I've been here now going on 8 years. When I first came here from Florida, I had 7th graders taking algebra, and we still aren't doing that here in South Fulton. So I'm going to challenge. I'm going to challenge my middle school principals. I'm going to challenge my elementary principals, because that's our continuous achievement. But parents, I'm going to challenge you, because if you don't get working with us with this, it doesn't happen. What you start to realize when kids do not take algebra until 9th grade, you have put them behind the 8 ball to get to a Research 1 college. Now, it's not our job to say where they go, but it's our job to give them the opportunities to get there. But it's going to require something. So we have to change the shift with math. Because I think we have to have more kids taking algebra prior to 9th grade. We should have most of our kids taking algebra in middle school, to be honest. The goal of the district, but it's going to take us a while to get there, is all of our 8th graders will take algebra. But we can make this, accelerate this process if we work as a partnership. And so in closing, just wanted to share those things with you about the upcoming accountability changes.
Great job. I just want to start by thanking the high school students, the Westlake students that were here earlier. I work in the district office. My name is Brian Noyes. I'm the communications director. And it's so great for me to be here, listen to what's in their hearts and what they're talking about, what's important to them, because it allows me to be able to share that with the folks that I deal with and at the legislature and elsewhere. So I'm going to talk about the legislature, but I always carry that in my mind. You know, what these kids are talking about, what's important to them, that's what I try to carry forward. So I want to thank them. They did a great job, as well as all of our school leaders. So thank you, Ron. I'm just going to take a few minutes because I think we're at 7 o'clock. The legislative process, everybody's aware, I'm sure you've seen in the news that the state capitol is going. Just a couple of points. There's 40 legislative days, and we're pretty far along. We're on the 14th day, what's happened today. March 15th will be what they call crossover day. So by that time, a bill has to pass one of the 2 chambers in order to qualify to go over to the other one. So we're moving pretty far along. And April 4th is what they call sine die, which is the last day of the legislature. So just so you have an idea of the timing of it. The school board sets forth its legislative priorities every year, and a few of those we're actually seeing some progress in. One of those, the census just happened every 10 years, and so the board met and established new district lines for the board member representation. So again, those are not maps related to school attendance, but the representation of the board members. So that has to get approved by the legislature. So House Bill 991 has been passed by the House and should be considered by the Senate within the next few days. And I want to point out that our board came together and created a unanimous map. So the legislators have appreciated that. You may not see that with every other delegation and every other board, but our board came together and came up with the best solution for those maps for us. Another major priority, obviously, is fully funding. Very fortunately, you know, amongst everything, the economy has moved fairly well in Georgia. We have a lot of federal money that's come in for both the state and for us, and so the budgets are actually in pretty good shape right now. And with that, the state legislature has just, in their amended budget, so in the middle of their fiscal year, which goes from July 1 to June 30, they've just put in $2,000 one-time payment and $1,000 for full-time employees and $1,000 one-time payment for all employees in public school education. So that's a great thing that should, when passed, should come before the end of this school year. They're also reduced the austerity, so the amount of money the state gives us is also improved significantly. And guess what? That revenue is going forward, so they're moving forward as well. So Governor Kemp made a promise to do $5,000 for all teachers. There's $2,000 left, so that's in the proposed budget for next year. So employees, teachers would get that in their raise as a salary. And then they've also proposed to eliminate the austerity. Now, if y'all don't know, that's a big deal. That's not something that we've dealt with or had at that level from school funding for, I don't know the exact number, but years and years and years. And it's a very big step. So that's a very good financial state for us to be in. The board also has a couple of other fiscal priorities. One is kind of technical, but the way we borrow money, there's been kind of an arcane way that we do that. So they're actually making progress in getting some more options for us so that we can run more smoothly, not have to spend as much money on financing. And there are some bills too that actually are out there that would eliminate homestead exemption or increase senior exemption, which would also hurt the revenue that we have locally. So those are ones that are being considered. You guys may be surprised, but there's a lot of politics at the Capitol. A little bit, right? So a lot of the rest of the bills, I'm not going to get into the politics of them all. I'm just going to give you some highlights of some key bills to look out for that are being considered. Let me assure you, without going into the details of all of them, our board is very active with the state legislature. We have representatives from our district that are there. We also have multiple state associations that are working on our behalf, on behalf of the schools, to address all these bills. I will say some of them that you all are going to see in the news, and I'll talk about some of them, are pretty political, and it's an election year. So guess what? The governor and the state legislature are the same body. If they have a political agenda, it's very likely that those bills are going to go through, right? So we are realistic in that, and we understand some of our goal is to try to make them the best that we can, to adjust them, to get amendments. And a lot of that comes down to bringing that perspective of, have you thought about how that really is going to impact the school and the classroom, how that's going to work? So we do, even in controversial issues, we do find most legislators will take some of those things into effect, and we will get some movement on them. But really, there's a whole host of bills. There's probably 2,000 bills right now, so you want me to go through all of them? Okay. There's a couple, though, that I want to point out. Vouchers. So House Bill 60 was a pretty big bill, which would allow for vouchers to be used for private school or in some cases homeschool. That did pass the committee and is going to be considered in the House. So that or some version of vouchers for private education is likely to move forward. Well, again, I'm not predicting success or failure. I'm just where there's motion and there's a lot of political weight behind them. There are also a couple of additional ones for, exemptions for military families so that kids will be able to use a voucher to stay where they are and some variations of that. In sports, there's several different issues. One that is moving forward is about transgender students, so that it would limit students to only participate in high school sports to the sex that they were assigned at birth. So that's also being considered and moving through the legislature. Critical race theory is all over the news. You all have seen that. There's probably 4 to 6 different bills addressing that. And right now they're in committee. So this week there's a back and forth in the committee between the legislatures. Advocates are down there pushing, their agenda, either for and against them, right? So that's very active and happening right now across the various committees and whatnot. There's also a big move to address obscene materials in the schools and the way that works. Fortunately, Fulton County schools, some of what they're proposing is already in place in our schools, so that there's ways for you to opt out. There's ways for you to appeal at the school level. And the process here starts, I forget who said it earlier, it starts with the teacher at the class, starts at the principal at the school level, and then someone like, the zone superintendents like Dr. Candace and Mr. Maxwell, there's an appeal all the way up. So there's a lot of ways for parents that are concerned about the materials or the curriculum that's in their schools to address it all the way up the process. And we feel like, as we're pushing back in the legislature, our processes at Fulton County are pretty solid. So we feel like there's a lot of that already in place. And a lot of these bills that they're putting in may affect smaller districts that haven't got as sophisticated a policy or those types of things. So there's a lot of big movement for them. Another major one is called the Bill of Rights. Fortunately, in Fulton County, Dr. Looney and our principals and everybody came together. We created a Bill of Rights in Fulton County. Did anybody know that we had a Parents' Bill of Rights in Fulton County? Did you know there was a Students' Bill of Rights in Fulton County and a Teachers' Bill of Rights? So a lot of the issues that they're talking about in the legislature, we've been talking about here since BC, before COVID. So we are addressing some of these things. I will say, obviously, there are ways that we can always be improved. We can always have more transparency. We can always be more clear so that everybody knows what our systems are, knows how to go through them. So there may be some components of this. There's definitely some awareness from Dr. Looney and a lot of us at the district level and at the school level that we need to make sure that we are engaging with parents. We are providing transparency as to the materials that are being put out there. But you'll also hear us talk about responsibility. So parents and students and teachers, it's a two-way street. We definitely need to provide the transparency. We definitely need to provide the options, but we also need respect. We also need, for each side to come at the table and say, you know what, we understand that there's disagreements, but there's processes that we can follow. So that's something that we talk about here a lot. I wish there was more respect in the Capitol. I wish they treated each other better, but sometimes that's, just a wish that I have. I will finish by saying there's also just a slew of other topics and issues. There are efforts to provide easier ways for people to come back from retirement into teaching. Other pathways for people to get to teaching quicker because of the shortage of teachers. There are some things that they're talking about in the legislature that would require us to do financial literacy in certain courses, suicide prevention efforts. And so there's just a whole slew of additional ones that we could talk about forever. But I know we're past 7 o'clock, and while everybody's had something to eat, you probably don't want to stay here all night. So I will be available and happy to answer any questions that, Ms. Warren, if there's anything else that you want me to address or questions that you want to address on legislative items. Did I carry this forward, or is it going to go on?
Thank you, Mr. Noyes and Mr. Maxwell. I want to reiterate, going back to Mr. Noyes' point, we know that in the legislature, a lot of these bills can have harmful effects on our children. We know this. And so at the board table, one of the things that I've been very clear about is that you don't ban books, because once you start banning books, I can start to say, I don't want my children to read Huckleberry Finn. I don't want my child to read a primary document. And so as we sit at the board table and we're talking about this, if you have a book that comes to you and you don't want your child reading it, Fulton County Schools already has a process that you can opt out of it. And so we have been having those very hard conversations. The critical race bill, it will likely pass. And so as we talk to our parents and I talk to my constituents, there's a couple of things that I am very thankful for in my children's schools, who all go to South Fulton County schools, is that they are being exposed to actual history. So they are not being taught things that are not true or they're not applicable to them. But we need to be very clear about this. So when parents come to me about certain things and I say, hey, have you been looking at the legislator? There's probably some bigger issues we need to focus on. Also around the school grades. So this is something that will impact us. In South County, this will impact us, and we will look at the end of the year and we may see our school, our beloved school, may have went down some points. It is going to be critical. Right now it is February. If a school says we have extended day, sign your child up. If they're doing something, because what you're gonna see is that kids are not going, who was maybe a 4 student, they've been out of school for 18 months, they're just now getting together, they may be a 2, and parents are gonna be mad. So I'm already having conversations with parents in that this is directly tied to pandemic schooling, but we need to have our kids read and write more. That's where this content mastery is going to come in. So if you want your child to be a 4, your child should be reading at home. Your child should be taking notes. My son goes to Sandtown and he is so upset that I have made him outline his school chapters. He cannot understand why I'm making him do it. I'm making him do it because I know that handwriting and that reading and writing is something that is critical. So for the last 10 minutes, if you have a question, I'll open the floor to you. We have filmed the meeting so people will be able to see it, and we can send the link out for people to see. My next meeting will be virtual, 1 month virtual, 1 month on, and the